For 30 years, Johnny Carson doesn't just host The Tonight Show heterolyous American television. 15 million viewers tune in religiously, making him the undisputed king of late-night entertainment. Comedians pray for his approval, A-list. Celebrities clear their schedules for his couch. And entire careers live or die based on a single appearance in studio. One at NBC Burbank. Carson wields more power than any entertainer in history. One nod from Johnny launches unknown comics into stardom. One laugh from the king creates instant credibility. But here's what most people never knew. Johnny Carson also maintains a secret blacklist, a collection of entertainment industry titans who commit unforgivable sins against the throne of late-night television. These aren't minor scheduling conflicts or bad interviews. These are shocking betrayals, explosive confrontations, and career-ending moments of disrespect that push America's most beloved host past his breaking point. Tonight, we're revealing the explosive true stories behind Carson's most controversial bans and permanent exiles that destroy careers and rewrite Hollywood history. The entertainment industry operates on unwritten rules, and Johnny Carson enforces them with ruthless precision. Cross the king, and you don't just lose a TV appearance, you lose access to the most important platform in American entertainment. These are the shocking stories they never wanted you to know. But before we dive into these incredible tales of power and consequence, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and hit that notification bell. Trust me, after you hear what happened to these major celebrities, you'll understand why getting on Johnny Carson's bad side was the kiss of death in Hollywood. The stories you're about to hear will change how you view the entertainment industry forever. Starting off, we have Joan Rivers Waston's in Johnny Carson's office in 1986, clutching a contract that will change both their lives forever. For nearly 15 years, Joan has been Carson's protege, his chosen successor, and most importantly, his friend. She's the only comedian Johnny trusts to guest host The Tonight Show, filling in during his frequent vacations with the wit and timing that make her Carson's hand-picked heir apparent. But the contract in Joan's hands represents the ultimate deal with Fox Network to host her own late-night show, directly competing with The Tonight Show in the same time slot. Joan knows she should tell Johnny personally, but she's terrified of his reaction. Instead, she signs the deal and lets him find out through the industry trades. Like everyone else in Hollywood, Carson's assistant buzzes him that Tuesday morning in May. "Johnny, you need to see The Hollywood Reporter." The headline hits him like a physical blow. Joan Rivers signs with Fox for a late-night show. His face goes white, then red with fury. The woman he's mentored, promoted, and treated like family has stabbed him in the back without even the courtesy of a phone call. Johnny picks up his phone and dials Joan's number. His hands shake slightly, not from nervousness, but from rage. When Joan answers, her voice trembles. She knows why he's calling. "Johnny, I can explain. Carson's voice cuts through her words like ice. "Explain how my friend decides to compete against me without having the decency to tell me herself. Explain how someone I trusted with my show repays that trust by trying to destroy it." Joan tries to defend herself. "Johnny, I'm 53 years old. This might be my only shot at having my own show. You have to understand what I understand." Carson interrupts, his voice deadly quiet. "Is that you're not the person I thought you were? Don't ever call me again." The line goes dead. 30 seconds. That's how long it takes for Johnny Carson to end a 15-year friendship and destroy Joan Rivers' career at NBC. Carson's retaliation is swift and merciless. Joan's name goes on the permanent ban list immediately. Her dressing room at NBC gets cleaned out that afternoon. More devastating, Carson uses his influence to ensure Joan never works at NBC again, not just on The Tonight Show, but anywhere in the network. The Fox Show, The Late Show starring Joan Rivers, premieres in October 1986 with massive publicity, but struggles against Carson's established audience. Worse, Johnny uses his industry connections to discourage major celebrities from appearing with Joan. A-list stars who regularly grace The Tonight Show suddenly become unavailable for Joan's program. The pressure becomes unbearable. Joan's husband, Edgar, who serves as the show's producer, watches their dream project crumble under Carson's systematic campaign of professional destruction. The ratings never materialize. Fox executives grow impatient, and Edgar faces mounting pressure from network suits who blame him for the show's failure. On August 14, 1987, Edgar Rosenberg takes his own life in a Philadelphia hotel room, unable to cope with the professional and personal devastation that follows their decision to challenge Johnny Carson. Joan discovers his body and her world implodes completely in her darkest hour. Facing the suicide of her husband and the collapse of her career, Joan reaches out one final time. Through intermediaries, she tries to send condolences and apologies to Carson, hoping their shared grief might bridge the chasm between them. Carson's response arrives through his lawyer, a formal letter stating that Mr. Carson has no comment and wishes no further contact with Ms. Rivers. Even in tragedy, the king of late-night shows no mercy. Joan's ban from The Tonight Show remains absolute for the rest of Carson's career, from 1986 until Johnny's retirement in 1992. One of America's funniest comedians never again sits in that famous guest chair. The woman who once filled Carson's shoes during vacations becomes persona non grata in the temple of late-night television. The consequences extend far beyond The Tonight Show. Joan's career never fully recovers during the Carson years. Her attempt to return to NBC fails, her movie projects dry up, and she's forced to rebuild her reputation from scratch through cable television and smaller venues. The queen of comedy becomes an entertainment industry exile, all because she dared to compete with the king. Carson never publicly discusses the Rivers situation, but those close to him know the betrayal cuts deep. Johnny felt like Joan was family, reveals Tonight Show producer Peter Lassley years later. When family betrays you like that, it changes something inside you permanently. The ban serves as a warning to every other entertainer in Hollywood. Loyalty to Johnny Carson isn't just expected, it's demanded. Cross that line, and you'll face professional extinction. Secondly, Frank Sinatra walks onto the Tonight Show stage in November 1973 like he owns the place, which in many ways he does. The chairman of the board commands respect wherever he goes, from the Copa to Vegas showrooms to the White House itself. But Studio One in Burbank belongs to Johnny Carson, and Sinatra is about to learn that even legends have their limits. The interview starts smoothly enough. Carson, ever the professional, guides the conversation through Sinatra's latest album and upcoming concert dates. The audience adores Frank, laughing at his stories about the Rat Pack and hanging on every word of show business wisdom from the master himself. Then Carson makes what seems like an innocent joke, the kind of playful ribbing that defines the Tonight Show's conversational style. "So Frank, I heard you had some interesting dinner companions in Chicago last week," Johnny says with his trademark Midwest smile, referring to persistent rumors about Sinatra's alleged mob connections. The studio temperature drops 10 degrees. Sinatra's famous blue eyes turn to ice, and his casual demeanor vanishes instantly. He leans forward in his chair, fixing Carson with a stare that has intimidated everyone from studio executives to U.S. senators. "You got something you want to say to me, Johnny?" Sinatra's voice carries the barely contained menace that made him legendary in both music and the darker corners of entertainment. Carson, never one to back down from anyone, maintains his composure. "Just having some fun, Frank. That's what we do here on The Tonight Show." The audience sits in stunned silence, sensing the electric tension between two titans of American entertainment. This isn't playful banter anymore, it's a confrontation between the old guard of entertainment and the new king of television. Sinatra's response shocks everyone in Studio One. He stands up abruptly, rips the wireless microphone from his lapel, and throws it onto Carson's desk with a sharp crack that echoes through the suddenly silent studio. "Next time you want to make jokes, make them about somebody else." Sinatra snarls, his famous temper now in full display. "Some of us have earned our respect the hard way." The chairman of the board then commits the ultimate sin in late-night television. He walks off Johnny Carson's stage mid-interview, leaving America's most powerful host sitting alone with his stunned audience and broken microphone. Carson watches Sinatra disappear behind the curtain, his own anger building like pressure in a boiler. In 30 years of television, no guest has ever shown such blatant disrespect to The Tonight Show or its host. The insult isn't just personal, it's an attack on the institution Carson has built into America's most important entertainment platform. While Carson says to his shocked audience, his voice steady but his eyes flashing with fury, "I guess Frank had somewhere else to be." The audience laughs nervously, but everyone in Studio One knows they've witnessed something unprecedented. Behind the scenes, Carson's reaction is swift and final. Before Sinatra even reaches his limousine, Johnny has made his decision. Frank Sinatra's name goes on the permanent ban list that very night, written in Carson's own handwriting and delivered to every Tonight Show producer and booking agent. The ban extends beyond just future appearances. Carson ensures that any mention of Sinatra on The Tonight Show becomes strictly off-limits. Monologue jokes about Frank disappear overnight. When other guests mention the chairman of the board, Carson skillfully redirects the conversation. For all practical purposes, Frank Sinatra ceases to exist in Johnny Carson's universe. Sinatra's representatives try to smooth things over within days of the incident. Phone calls come from powerful agents, record executives, even Sinatra's attorney trying to arrange a reconciliation. Carson's message never wavers. Frank Sinatra is no longer welcome on The Tonight Show, period. The consequences for Sinatra are more subtle but no less real. The Tonight Show represents the most important promotional platform in American entertainment, reaching 15 million viewers every night. Without access to Carson's audience, Sinatra loses his most effective way to promote new albums and concert tours to mainstream America. More damaging is the message Carson's ban sends to the rest of the entertainment industry. If Frank Sinatra, of the most powerful figures in show business, can be exiled from The Tonight Show, then no one is untouchable. Carson's authority becomes absolute. That the ban remains in place for the next 19 years, until Carson's retirement in 1992. During that time, Sinatra releases dozens of albums, performs hundreds of concerts, and remains one of America's most beloved entertainers. But he never again sits in Johnny Carson's guest chair, never again promotes his work to The Tonight Show's massive audience. Years later, in his autobiography, Sinatra acknowledges the incident with characteristic bluntness. "I let my temper get the better of me with Carson. The guy was just doing his job, and I overreacted. But I was never one to apologize for being Frank Sinatra." The apology never comes, and Carson never forgives. When Sinatra dies in 1998, The Tonight Show with Jay Leno offers a brief tribute, but Johnny Carson himself remains conspicuously silent. Some lines, once crossed, can never be uncrossed, not even for the chairman of the board. The Sinatra ban establishes a crucial precedent in Carson's kingdom. Respect for The Tonight Show and its host is non-negotiable, regardless of how famous, powerful, or important the guest might be. The king of late-night television bows to no one, not even legends. Next up is Andrew Dice Clay, swift listering into NBC Burbank in September 1989 like a conquering hero. Leather jacket gleaming and attitude cranked to maximum volume. The self-proclaimed Diceman is riding the biggest wave in comedy, selling out Madison Square Garden and stirring controversy wherever his crude, misogynistic act lands. Tonight, he's about to make his Tonight Show debut. The appearance that should cement his transition from underground shock comic to mainstream superstar. But Clay has badly misread Johnny Carson and the Tonight Show audience. While the Dice Arena crowds love his offensive nursery rhymes and crude impressions, Carson's viewers expect something entirely different from their late-night entertainment. They want sophistication, wit, and class. Everything Andrew Dice Clay's act deliberately rejects. The pre-interview session with Tonight Show producers should serve as a warning. They repeatedly emphasize the need for television material, explaining Carson's standards and the Tonight Show's family-friendly late-night image. Clay nods and smirks, assuring them he understands completely. "Don't worry about it," Clay tells the producers in his thick Brooklyn accent. "I know how to work clean. Johnny's gonna love me." But Clay's definition of clean and Carson's exist in completely different universes. The producers sense trouble but hope the comedian's natural charisma will translate to television success. Even with toned-down material, Carson introduces Clay with professional courtesy, though his smile seems slightly forced. Our next guest is one of the hottest comedians in America right now, selling out arenas across the country. Please welcome Andrew Dice Clay. Clay bounds onto the stage with his signature swagger, immediately launching into material that makes the Studio One audience shift uncomfortably in their seats. What passes for clean in Clay's world still features graphic, sexual references and degrading comments about women that have no place on Carson's show. The king of late night sits behind his desk, his famous smile freezing as Clay's routine grows increasingly inappropriate. Carson tries subtle redirections, hoping to guide the comedian toward more suitable material, but Clay interprets the audience's nervous laughter as encouragement to push even further. Then Clay crosses the final line, sensing that his usual material isn't connecting with Carson's mainstream audience. He makes a fatal decision. Instead of adjusting his approach, he turns his anger on the very institution that's giving him this career-making opportunity. "Tough crowd," Johnny Clay says, gesturing toward the clearly uncomfortable audience. Maybe they're not ready for real comedy. Maybe they're too used to safe, boring stuff. The insult hits Carson like a slap across the face, in front of 15 million viewers. This crude comedian from Brooklyn has just called The Tonight Show safe and boring, dismissing 3 decades of television excellence and implying that Carson himself lacks the courage for real comedy. Carson's expression hardens instantly. His Midwest politeness vanishes, replaced by the cold fury of a man whose life's work has just been insulted by someone who should be grateful for the opportunity. Well, Andrew Carson says, his voice carrying deadly calm, different audiences appreciate different things. Some prefer wit over shock value, but Clay, either too arrogant or too stupid to recognize the danger, doubles down on his attack. Yeah, well, maybe it's time for some fresh blood in late night. Some people who aren't afraid to tell the truth. The silence in Studio One becomes deafening. Carson stares at Clay for what feels like an eternity, his decision crystallizing in real time. This crude, ungrateful comedian has just insulted not only Carson personally but The Tonight Show itself, the institution that defines American entertainment. "We'll be right back," Carson announces, cutting to commercial break 3 minutes early. During the break, he turns to Clay with ice in his voice. "Your segment is over. Security will show you out." Clay tries to protest, claiming he was just getting warmed up, but Carson has already turned away. 2 security guards escort the shocked comedian off the stage and out of the building through the back exit, away from other guests and audience members. The ban is immediate and comprehensive. Clay's name goes on Carson's permanent blacklist before the show even returns from commercial. More devastating, Carson uses his industry influence to spread word about Clay's unprofessional behavior, making the comedian radioactive for other major television appearances. The consequences for Andrew Dice Clay are swift and brutal. His moment of mainstream crossover, the Tonight Show appearance that should have launched him into household name status, instead becomes his entertainment industry funeral. Network executives, already nervous about Clay's controversial image, use Carson's rejection as justification to avoid booking the comedian entirely. Clay's career peaks in 1989 and begins its precipitous decline almost immediately after the Carson incident. Movie offers dry up, television appearances become scarce, and the comedian finds himself increasingly relegated to smaller venues and niche audiences. The mainstream success that seemed within his grasp disappears overnight. Years later, Clay attempts to rehabilitate his image and return to network television. But Carson's ban serves as a permanent stain on his reputation. Industry insiders remember the comedian who insulted Johnny Carson on national television, and that memory follows Clay throughout his career. The Diceman's downfall serves as a cautionary tale throughout Hollywood. Talent without respect equals career suicide. Carson's message resonates clearly through the entertainment industry. The Tonight Show opens doors, but disrespect closes them permanently. Clay never recovers the momentum he possessed before crossing. Johnny Carson, the king of late-night television, proves that in the hierarchy of American entertainment, respect trumps rebellion every single time. Some audiences you can shock, but you never ever disrespect the man who built the stage you're standing on. We've got Chevy Chase arriving at NBC Burbank in March 1982 with the swagger of someone who believes his own press clippings. Fresh off his Saturday Night Live success and riding high from hit movies like Caddyshack and National Lampoon's Vacation, Chase considers himself comedy royalty. But his massive ego is about to collide with the one man in Hollywood who refuses to be impressed by anyone's supposed greatness. Chase has been a Tonight Show regular since his SNL days, charming Carson and audiences with his deadpan delivery and seemingly effortless wit. Johnny has watched Chase's career ascend from unknown writer to comedy superstar, always treating the younger comedian with a respect reserved for genuine talent. But success has poisoned Chase's perspective. He no longer sees The Tonight Show as the career-making opportunity it represents for most entertainers. Instead, he views it as beneath him, a stepping stone he's already outgrown on his way to bigger and more important things. The warning signs appear during the pre-show preparation. Chase arrives 45 minutes late for his call time, offering no apology to the producers scrambling to adjust the show's carefully orchestrated timing. When Tonight Show staff attempt the standard pre-interview to discuss talking points, Chase waves them off dismissively. "I don't need coaching," Chase declares with characteristic arrogance. "I've been doing this longer than most of you have been alive. Johnny and I will figure it out when we get out there." The producers exchange worried glances but don't push. The issue: Chase is, after all, a major star promoting a major studio film. They trust his professionalism and Carson's ability to handle any unexpected moments. Their trust proves catastrophically misplaced. Carson introduces Chase with genuine warmth, highlighting their long professional relationship and expressing excitement about the comedian's latest projects. The audience welcomes Chase enthusiastically, expecting the sharp wit and self-deprecating humor that made him a Tonight Show favorite. Instead, they get a masterclass in professional suicide. Chase settles into the guest chair with visible disdain, his body language screaming boredom and superiority. When Carson asks about his new movie, Chase's response drips with condescension. "Well, Johnny, it's hard to explain sophisticated comedy to a television audience. Movie comedy operates on a different level than what people are used to seeing on TV." The first insult lands like a punch to Carson's gut, but he maintains his professional composure. Johnny has dealt with difficult guests before, and he attempts to redirect the conversation toward safer ground. "Your film career has really taken off since SNL," Carson observes, trying to give Chase an opportunity to share entertaining behind-the-scenes stories. Chase's response destroys any remaining goodwill in Studio One. "Well, some of us move on to bigger things, Johnny. Not everyone can be content doing the same show for 20 years. Some of us have ambition." The audience gasps audibly in front of 15 million viewers. Chevy Chase has just insulted Johnny Carson's life's work, dismissing The Tonight Show as a dead-end job for people without ambition. The attack is personal, professional, and completely unprovoked. Carson's famous smile freezes on his face, but his eyes flash with fury. In 3 decades of television, no guest has ever shown such blatant disrespect to the institution that made their appearance possible. Chase has crossed a line that doesn't exist on any map. While Chevy Carson responds with deadly calm, different people find fulfillment in different ways. Some of us enjoy entertaining people night after night. Others prefer the variety of film work. The diplomatic response should serve as Chase's final warning. But the comedian is too intoxicated by his own perceived superiority to recognize the danger. Instead of backing down, he doubles down on his attack. "Exactly my point, Johnny. Television is so limiting. Movies let you explore real characters, tell important stories. TV is just the same format, over and over again. It gets pretty boring after a while." The silence in Studio One becomes suffocating. Carson stares at Chase with the cold fury of a man watching someone destroy their own career. The king of late-night television has been insulted, dismissed, and patronized by someone who should be kissing his feet in gratitude. Carson finishes the interview with professional grace, but everyone in the studio knows they've witnessed something unprecedented. As Chase waves to the audience and exits the stage, he has no idea he's just committed career suicide on national television. The retaliation begins before Chase reaches his dressing room. Carson's assistant receives instructions to add Chevy Chase to the permanent ban list immediately. More devastating, Johnny begins making phone calls to his extensive network of industry contacts, sharing his assessment of Chase's professionalism and attitude. In Hollywood's interconnected web of relationships, Johnny Carson's opinion carries extraordinary weight. When the king of late-night television suggests someone has attitude problems, industry executives listen. Chase's arrogance, once seen as confidence, suddenly becomes a liability that no one wants to deal with. The consequences unfold gradually but inexorably. Chase's next few films perform poorly at the box office, and suddenly Hollywood's golden boy becomes a risky investment. Directors who once courted his participation begin looking elsewhere for leading men. Studio executives, already nervous about Chase's reputation for difficult behavior, use Carson's assessment as justification to pass on projects. Chase never appears on The Tonight Show again during Carson's remaining 10 years as host. The comedian, who once treated the show as beneath him, finds himself permanently exiled from the most important promotional platform in American entertainment. The ban extends beyond just Tonight Show appearances. Carson's influence ensures that Chase faces difficulties booking other major television appearances as well. Network executives, aware of the comedian's falling out with television's most powerful figure, become reluctant to risk similar incidents on their own programs. Chase's film career, which seemed unstoppable in 1982, begins its slow decline almost immediately after the Carson incident. Movies like Deal of the Century and Under the Rainbow bomb at the box office, and Chase finds himself increasingly cast in smaller roles and less prestigious projects. Years later, industry insiders point to the Carson appearance as the beginning of Chase's professional downfall. The comedian's arrogance, once tolerated because of his box office appeal, becomes an insurmountable obstacle when his commercial value diminishes. Chase never acknowledges the role his Tonight Show behavior played in his career decline, but the timeline speaks for itself. The golden boy who insulted Johnny Carson discovers that some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. And just like that, careers were crushed with a single phone call, or no call at all. Johnny Carson didn't just host The Tonight Show, he ruled it. And when you crossed him, you didn't just lose a spot on the couch, you vanished from Hollywood's biggest stage. Be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to stay up to date on stories just like this.